I think a good school today doesn't necessarily meet the same definition as a good school 20 years ago. That a good school 20 years ago was constituted largely by high test scores. And while test scores remain important, increasingly today schools need to refocus from the sort of standardized curriculum, standardized experience, and begin to look more and more at learners. The good school of today, and I think even more of tomorrow, is a school that starts with the learner, that asks what the learner needs, and takes the learner forward regardless of whether they come from a family that has a history of formal education or have all the resources that we might wish they had. But that really good school today, and I think even more tomorrow, will be the school that focuses on the learner, that builds the learner's capacity to learn, not just their capacity to be taught, that spark in learners' curiosity and imagination and possibility, not just a focus on, can I get good grades? When the metrics start to change, and I think they are starting to change, we're asking different questions, we're holding different expectations of schools and of graduates than we did in the past. And Wisconsin has had pockets of innovation around this sort of redesign, and there are some really good profiles of schools within Wisconsin as a whole, and southeastern Wisconsin particularly, who've really thought deeply about how we develop the learner, not just how we train good students. And so I would say Wisconsin is competitive, but that's not saying much in terms of transforming the system. Most adults experience the traditional system, and it's hard for them to imagine a system that would be different from that. I mean, their idea was the teacher came in, the teacher told you what to do, you do what the teacher says, and if you do all that, good things happen. And that was a reasonable value proposition 20 years ago. It becomes less and less of a reasonable value proposition today. Today it's more a matter of what's the talent you have that I can develop? What is it that really interests you that I can tap to ensure that you learn what you need to learn, but in the middle of that I'm also capturing your imagination. I'm building a sense of purpose that allows you to become not just a well-trained worker, but a creative, creating worker who not only can do the job, but can create new ones. The challenge of becoming more competitive, I think, is both important and evolving. But among the drivers, I think, in that competition are one, that we commit to having all learners learn. The second is to go beyond the idea of we need to teach students the curriculum, to building in them the capacity to be learners, including in an independent situation. That the future is far from predictable, other than we know it's going to change rapidly. So simply giving students a set of facts or a cluster of information isn't adequate. That next level of preparing young people to be learners, not just students, is a really important element. And I think that represents a significant competitive advantage, not just for the schools, but for our state. That if we can prepare graduates who are flexible learners, who know how to learn when taught, but also know how to learn in situations that are far less clear, that are much murkier, we create now the opportunity to be competitive in an environment that's going to change, that's unpredictable.